Welcome to another monthly portfolio update. If you are stopping by for the first time, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. In this video, I will share with you how much I invested in my taxable account in March, how many shares I bought, and the value of my portfolio at the end of March. But as always, before I continue, a quick disclaimer. The information that I'm sharing is not financial advice. Before you invest in anything, please do your own research and make sure that you only invest in things that you understand. With that being said, I will dive right into my portfolio update. I will start with a quick recap of my February portfolio to show you the value of the portfolio and how many shares I had before the beginning of March. The total value of my portfolio at the end of February was $124,077.85. $124,076.55 was the market value of my investments, and $1.30 was a cash amount. At the end of February, the total unrealized profit of my portfolio was $40,040.80. This was plus 47.65%. These are my holdings: 2 Vanguard ETFs and 2 BlackRock ETFs. VCN is a Vanguard ETF that tracks the Canadian market. I had 120 shares of VCN at the end of February. VFV is a Vanguard ETF that tracks the S&P 500 index. This is the Canadian version of VOO. I had 375 shares of VFV at the end of February. XEQT is a BlackRock ETF. This is an all-in-one equity ETF that holds Canadian equities, US equities, developed market equities outside of North America, and emerging market equities. If you want to hold a single equity ETF that is globally diversified, you might consider looking into XEQT or its Vanguard equivalent, VEQT. I had 670 shares of XEQT at the end of February. XUU is a BlackRock ETF that tracks the US total stock market, and I had 365 shares of XUU at the end of February. I will now show you how much I invested in March and how many shares I bought. I bought 2 shares of VCN. The cost per share was $67.10. The total cost, $134.20. This is 8% of the amount that I invested in March. I bought 5 shares of VFV. The cost per share was $165.34. The total cost, $826.71. This is 48% of the amount that I invested in March. I bought 10 shares of XEQT. The cost per share was $40.90. The total cost, $490. This is 24% of the amount that I invested in March. I bought 5 shares of XUU. The cost per share was $67.91. The total cost, $339.53. And this is 20% of the amount that I invested in March. In total, I bought 22 shares, all ETFs combined, and the amount that I invested in March was $1,709.44. This is $9.16 less than the amount that I invested in February. As you can see, in February, I invested $1,718.60, and in March, I invested $1,709.44. The difference is minus $9.16. The total value of my portfolio at the end of March was $121,248.88. $121,094.30 was the market value of my investments, and $154.58 was a cash amount. At the end of March, the total unrealized profit of my portfolio was $35,349.11. This was plus 41.23%, which is less than what it was at the beginning of March. As of March the 31st, I had 122 shares of VCN, 308 shares of VFV, 608 shares of XEQT, and 370 shares of XUU. Alright, let's now take a look at some quick details about each of the positions. I will start with a VCN. The closing market price on March the 31st was $66.50. The quantity of shares that I had, 122. The average price, $43.94. The book value, which is how much I have invested in VCN, was $5,361.82. The market value was $8,113. This was 6.69% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for VCN was $2,751.18. This was 51.31%. Next, we have VFV. The closing market price on March the 31st was $160.99. The quantity of shares I had, 380. The average price, $112.95. The book value was $42,923.34. The market value was $61,176.20. This was 50.46% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for VFV was $18,252.86. This was 42.52%. Then we have XEQT. The closing market price on March the 31st was $40.06. The quantity of shares that I had, 680. The average price, $28.86. The book value was $19,629.39. The market value was $27,240.80. This was 22.47% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for XEQT was $7,611.41. This was 38.78%. Finally, we have XUU. The closing market price on March the 31st was $66.39. The quantity of shares that I had, 370. The average price, $48.19. The book value was $17,830.64. The market value was $24,564.30. This was 20.26% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for XOU was $6,733.66. This was 37.76%. March was a brutal month for stocks. My portfolio went from being up 47.65% at the beginning of the month to just 41.23% at the end of the month. This is a decline of 6.41% in 1 month, even though I invested $1,709.44 in March. As for the S&P 500 index, it fell 5% in March. Other US indices such as the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq 100 lost 5.2% and 4.8% respectively. It's like we are experiencing a similar level of volatility of what we saw exactly 1 year ago, except this time it is due to the war in the Middle East. But the common denominator in both instances is Trump. Last year, he imposed tariffs on basically the entire world in what he called the Liberation Day. This time, Trump with Israel attacked Iran, and Iran retaliated by attacking Israel and US interests in the Middle East. Iran also closed the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of global oil and liquefied natural gas passes through. This sent oil prices to the roof, with the price per barrel hitting and exceeding $100. As a result of this, we may see inflation going up the next months, since the price of oil impacts the price of most goods. We will see in the coming weeks what will be the impact of this geopolitical chaos in our daily lives and in the economy. Of course, we hope things get better and return to normal. But as small investors, there's little to nothing we can do about it. In times like these, it's very important to stay the course and keep investing. Stocks and ETFs are trading at a discount, and this is a buying opportunity. Alright, feel free to leave a comment below. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time with another update. Peace out.